Hi, this is Joe, and welcome back to my shop. This is the third video in the series of money-saving ideas for the shop. This week we're going to be making a welding tree. This is not my idea. I got this idea from Jody over at weldingtipsandtricks.com. One of the differences between an amateur welder and a professional welder is how much welding practice you get in practicing your skills and techniques. So what we're going to do is build this stand, and what it is a 1-inch iron pipe, 3 unions, some nuts and bolts, some rebar, and some metal, hot rolled metal plate. I also have another 7-foot piece over to the side, and when we get into the assembly stage, I'll show you how all these components fit together. The reason I'm including this assembly or this welding tree in my money-saving ideas for the shop is if you go out and buy one of these commercially, they're anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800. They are worth it, but in this particular case, we're going to make our own for right around $50 for the stand. One important safety precaution we need to take when making this stand is notice that the unions do have a galvanized finish on them. I could not get plain steel unions. So what we're going to have to do is grind off the zinc plated or galvanized plating on these unions. Also, we have zinc plated hardware here. We're going to have to grind these. When you're welding, we're also going to have to wear a organic respirator. You do not want to breathe the fumes while you're welding of any galvanized material, as the fumes are very toxic. So please take the proper safety precautions. Let's pop down to the welding shop and start assembling these pipe fittings and the components of the welding tree. One thing I forgot to mention, the unions here are 1 1/4 inch. The pipe is 1 inch. The idea is to slide the unions over the pipe and then secure the unions to the pipe with the nut and bolt. The nuts will be welded to the union, and then that way all we have to do is tighten down the bolt onto the pipe, and that will secure the union to the pipe. When you're always welding something critical, it's always a good idea to practice on some scrap pieces before you weld the actual piece that you want. This way you get an idea of the angles and of the proper positioning of your hand. So for example, being that we're going to be welding some tubing here, you want to be able to come in and establish the correct angle of the TIG torch and the correct angle of the filler rod, and then we want to do a couple of dry runs to make sure we got our proper positioning and flow of how we're going to move our hand. So we're going to start back here, and then we're going to work our way up. More than likely, you're going to notice we have to change the angle of the TIG torch when we're up here as opposed to back here. So as we get closer to the top of the tubing, we're going to have to change the angle of the TIG torch. This way, when you actually get in to weld the real pieces, you have an idea of what to expect. You've been able to practice on a few pieces. Notice I've set up a saddle joint here. I beveled the ends of this pipe, created a saddle joint, and then I can practice on the saddle joint so that when I weld the actual real welding tree, hopefully my welds will then be very secure I'll get deep penetration and the welds will look good. Okay, here's the weld of the two pieces of tubing together. It gave me quite a bit of practice in going around some tubing and getting an idea of the type of TIG torch position and rod filler feeding. And that way I'm going to do one or two more, and I'm going to do a saddle joint, and then that should prep me well enough so that when I get ready to do the actual welding tree, I should get pretty good penetration and my weld should look pretty good. Okay, we've done all our practice welding, so now we're going to start in with the pipe nipples. I've ground off the zinc coating on the nut, and I've ground off the zinc coating on the head of the screw because we're eventually going to weld a handle to the bolt. So the first step, we're going to put the pipe nipple in a vise. We're going to align the bolt and nut, and then we're going to tack weld 4 places on the nut to hold that nut in place. So I'll go ahead and I'll weld that, and then we'll come back and take a look at the next steps we need to do. We just welded the bolt, or the nut, onto the pipe nipple. It's still really hot. Then we can come in and eventually put the handle onto the bolt. Before we do that, we're going to turn this around. This is still hot, so I'm not going to touch it with my hands. I'm going to put the bolt hole right at the very bottom. And then we're going to come in and we're going to weld on the metal bracket that we use to either mount the pipe nipple when it's on the pipe to the table to hold the pipe stand, or on the cross pipe that you'll see when we're finished here, on the cross pipe to actually clamp the metal that you're going to be welding. So what we'll do here is we will put this on and get this perfectly lined up. What I'll do is come in with a clamp and clamp this on straight, and then we'll go ahead and tack and then weld that. Let me come back. I'll spare you the details of the clamping. I'll do the welding, and I'll come back and show you the finished pipe nipple with the bracket. Here's the welded pipe nipple with the piece of steel plate going crossways. So that's how that portion looks. Now we're going to take another pipe nipple and we're going to weld. Well, let me get this set up for you. Give me a sec. Here's the other nipple, and what I'm going to do is weld this one crossways. And the purpose of this is when the pipe nipple is vertically on the pipe, it will then mount to the table, the welding table. We can then clamp it, and then that will hold the vertical pipe aligned. What I'm going to do is, off camera, I'm going to go and I'm going to cut half of the nipple size into this piece of steel plate, and we'll mount it, clamp it, weld it, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Here's the finished nipple with the piece of plate welded crossways onto the nipple. What we're going to do now is take and turn this around, mount it into the vise, take our bolt, put it in, and then what we'll do is we'll clamp the rebar handle on, and we'll tack and weld the handles onto the bolts, for handles. So I'll get this set up, tacked and welded. I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. Actually, after messing around with it for a little while, it was a little too shaky to mount, so I decided to pull the bolt out of the pipe nipple, clamp it in with a set of welding clamps, and then it will be a little easier to tack weld it here. Then I can mount it in the vise and fully weld each one. So I'll go ahead and I'll do it that way, and then I'll show you the finished product. Here's the stand finished. Notice it's clamped to the work table with a welding clamp, and the pipe nipple is holding it to the vertical pipe. We come up a little bit, and we have the cross piece, and it's held in place on the vertical pipe with a pipe nipple. And then over to the right is the workpiece mount, and you can clamp a piece there and then use it for practicing your welding, and you can practice your different positions, your vertical positions, your horizontal positions, your overhead positions. So here's the stand put together for right around $50. I'm going to take the nipples off now and give them a shot of, clean them up and give them a shot of satin black. I'll leave the vertical pipe alone. It's fairly well coated. Again, all this was picked up at Home Depot for right around $50. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in our next video.